and Breakdowns.
Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We have I'm excited for this episode, honestly, because it's the first time we're meeting, so
yeah.
It's kind of cool. But it's episode 124 with, I'm going to mess it up.
It's all good.
Prabhu from Bhloom, man. What's going on?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by. We were. It's funny because we were literally just talking in the conversation about like pronouncing like your name. And you have like different pronunciations, but I feel the same way. So my name online on everything is just OC now.
Yeah.
Just 2 letters because my name is Ociel.
Oh, like O and C?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because I'm like, but every time I had different pronunciations. So you were saying with, with people who are Indian, you pronounce it a certain way. And the same thing with me. Like people who speak Spanish, I would be like, do the Spanish way. And then with other people, would be like OCL, but that's not how you read it.
Yeah.
That's just how I say it. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to go OC, and that's just going to solve all my problems.
Yeah.
But you say now you're trying to kind of...
Just trying to consolidate just because I was like, I should just go by Prabhu everywhere instead of Prabhu. And, it's just make it one thing. So I'm not like... Yeah, I was telling you about some friends who were like, "Oh yeah, I thought your name was this." That they felt like, "Why'd you lie to me?" Kind of thing. I was like, I don't want to make
like it is like a
people
bigger,
like yeah.
No, I had the same. I had one of my really good friends who like was pronouncing my name wrong for like a year, and I think I finally like someone told him, "It's like, why do you say it like that?" And he's like, "That's the way you say it." And he's like, "You never said anything." I was like, "Oh yeah, like I just didn't mind." But for me, it was like also like. I don't know, maybe like a mental thing where I'm just like, I don't care the way you say it.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. I was like, as long as I know, you talk, you need my name so that you can get my attention.
Yeah.
So,
But then like I kind of like flipped it a little bit where I was like, I need to, I don't know, be I guess proud of like how my name is. So I'm like, okay, like I maybe take a little more pride in like this is the way you're supposed to say it.
That too.
It's okay, you know what I mean? But it's give and take for me. Like some situations, like yes, I'll put in the effort for that. Some if I'm like putting an order in like at a restaurant, so like, who cares?
Oh yeah, well that's where the whole having an artist name. Funny enough, like, I used to play around with different names just to make it easy. Funny, the Starbucks name that I had for a long time was Pablo, which is funny because like that was just close enough to my name and it worked, and people would assume my name was Pablo anyways because that was a name familiar to them that had the P and the B and the A, and so they're like, oh, Pablo
association.
And I just felt odd taking like a different ethnicity's name, and I was like, but then recently I was trying out like when I go to Chick-fil-A and stuff, I'll just say Bhloom, and people are like, oh, like the word like flower, like a flower or something. And I was like, hey, if anything, at least this artist name is like a good restaurant Starbucks name. So.
I mean, very, very true. And it, again, it helps people find you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With, like music and stuff like that, you need something. Even like, I know your like Bhloom has the H in it, which kind of helps like separate that. Was that like on purpose?
I mean, admittedly, sometimes I wish I didn't have it just because I wouldn't have to be like Bhloom with an H, because then that's like a thing if someone's looking it up. But I did it because one, Bhloom is used a lot, but also because my name is spelled Prabhu. I thought I think a friend or something had given me that idea, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll play around with it. I do like it. It's just you get really hard on yourself sometimes with artist names. They're like committing to something forever just because this is a thing that's like also a solo project that I want to keep forever kind of thing. So sometimes I go back and forth on it, but it is really nice to have that like a word that's like short that is almost synonymous with the name, just because if someone can't pronounce your name or someone can't say your name, it does help when you meet people. I'll notice it's like right off the bat they know that artist name. It's like it's not like that recognition name recognition thing, so that someone can like check out your Spotify or something like that helps. So it makes it makes that interaction a lot more comfortable for someone to come up to you if they're like, oh, I know how to say this, Yeah.
So going back to like what I was telling you about, like people with my name and stuff like that. When I started really getting into like the music scene and stuff around here, I had a lot of friends online that I hadn't met that I just knew like, oh, they play in that band, they play in this band, blah blah blah, and they knew me just off the internet, but I would notice that some of them would catch my eye like at a show or something, but wouldn't come up to me and say anything. And I'm just like, that's a little weird. Like, cause I feel like we could probably say hi to each other.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then I did the name change thing where I was just like, I'm just going to go by OC now. Like it's easy. Like I'm pretty sure people can figure that out. And all of a sudden, those same people were now coming up to me and being like, "Oh, like OC." But it was like, I think it was really like, I don't know how to say the name, and
takes away the initial intimidation.
Yeah, and then like awkwardness of like, oh, I don't want to mess this up and like start the interaction off like that. So
yeah,
it's definitely helped in that aspect. But yeah, as an artist, you want something to be easy so people can like come up and like be comfortable with actually coming up and talking to you. But also like again, the H alone is going to help with like what is it?
Just
SEO
separation.
searching?
Yeah. I mean that's actually, I didn't even think of that when I
does?
I did
like
it.
I don't ever like. Which is weird because now you would have to think that way and being like, oh, what's the searchability on this?
Actually, I was working for this new thing. I was working with this marketing team, and they were like talking about you have the perfect. You picked the perfect artist name. It's only 6 letters, but it's spelt in a very unique way. It's perfect for SEO. And I was like, really? I'm glad because like I've literally thought in the past like, is this name dumb? Should I choose something else? So I was like, that's cool. I'm just gonna like forget my feelings on it, at least like business wise, if it makes sense. So okay, cool.
Thinking about like stuff in your artistry as like business wise is a little weird.
Yeah,
like I don't know, like when I had a band, like same thing. I'm like, I didn't ever think about like anything like business wise. It's just like what's cool, like this and that. Like even like our band name, we put random words in a hat and picked out 2.
Oh, really?
And came up with Under Oblivion. And I'm like,
That's cool.
it doesn't make sense, like, but it sounds cool. But yeah, like I never thought about
That's a
that.
sick name. I like that actually. Yeah.
But then I had a band, and I've talked to them about this before. But there's this like punk band around here who their name is The Deep End, and I remember when we booked them for a first show, we looked up The Deep End, and there's like a ton of The Deep Ends, and I'm just like, I go, oh, and then you start putting stuff together, be like, oh, that's why that's important, you know what I mean, like, or like change the spelling or something like that. But so your Project Bhloom, how long have you been doing like your solo Project Bhloom?
Well, technically, actually, I was thinking about this recently because I found some of the like original music I'd put out for it, which is very different. It wasn't metal or anything.
Really? Okay.
Technically, since I think around like 2020, 2019, something like that. So Bhloom kind of started as a just so for backstory, I'd graduated college around like 2016, end of 2016. I'd played in bands and done solo work before then, and I had a band that was called Two Face before. That was like my solo. I've always kind of been like I have a solo project that turns into a band kind of person. Okay. And I had that, and that was going through college, and then after graduating college, I was going through some personal stuff, and I kind of took some time away from doing any music or just putting music out, and also that was like figuring out life, just getting my first job and figuring out how to like work a 9-to-5 job and have time and all that stuff. And I moved to Dallas in 2018, and around 2018, 2019, that was when I started going out to more shows. So there are a couple shows that like distinctly inspired me to just get back into doing music, because I was like, what am I doing? Like just working this corporate job, not doing music. I hate this. This is not me. I went to Buckethead, and that was like,
okay.
I saw him at Granada Theater. He's one of my favorite guitar players, and I was like, dude, I need to like start playing guitar again. I was playing guitar, but I was like, I need to start like actually doing
putting in
something.
Some effort.
Yeah, putting in some effort, not just if I have time, like make the time. So I wanted to put together like a solo project thing. And at the time I was also, I've always been a metalhead, always played music, always loved metal. But I've always, not always, for like in the like mid 2010s or whatever you call it, I feel like I was more doing stuff where I was taking things I liked from metal, but putting it into like other genres. Like, how can I do metal guitars and shreddy stuff with hip hop? How can I do that with electronic music? Just like fusion stuff. So Bhloom kind of started with around the 2018, 2019 with just kind of these instrumental, chill, lo-fi beat kind of things that had guitar, but just more like, it was more just a thing for me to get over that initial hump of like not wanting to do music and feeling kind of like honestly depressed about it, and just forcing myself to put something out just for a completion grade. Just like just do it and just push past the discomfort and just make an Instagram, make a SoundCloud, all that, whatever, Bandcamp, all that kind of stuff, and just do it. And then as I started using that to just like get more comfortable posting whatever music I had laying around, around like 2021, 2022 time, that's when I was like, dude, I just need to do metal. Like, what am I doing? Like, it's just been like a slow realization of like going back to things that are just innately fun for me.
Yeah.
Like this is a big thing for me of wanting to like, really make this into a, project and career and all that kind of stuff. But at the core of it, it's rooted in doing something that I just truly find fun. And that's when I've put the best music and put the effort into the music that I think is my best music, because with the lo-fi stuff, it was cool, but I didn't feel like super energized or anything about it. I'd write all this metal stuff, but then I would put out non-metal stuff, and I was like, what am I doing? I just need
the common denominator was you putting metal into like every other of these genres.
I was like, dude,
why don't I just
why don't I just do that? Like, why am I like going, in these indirect ways to do the thing that I really love, which is heavy music. And so around 2021, end of 2021, I was writing just some heavy songs, and I took I had all these disjointed riffs and songs. I remember just this one weekend, I had a riff that I'd sat on for a while, and all the ideas came out. It's like you can spend a whole year having no ideas, and then one weekend it just the inspiration kicks, and then I just sat down, didn't have anything else that weekend, and I finished the song. That was my first single, Slippy Toad, and when I put that out, I was just like, this is what I want to write. I was like, I'm just gonna stick with this and kind of put a little bit of restriction on myself. Okay. Not in the, maybe not restriction, but a little bit of focus. I've kind of had to put intentional focus on, I'm going to just stick with this metal heavy music thing because I want to, focus and actually grow in something, as opposed to, do this, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But it's actually really been awesome because I feel like I can take from all those other things that I tried with, let me do hip hop, let me do electronic, let me do some cinematic stuff, but I can just put that all into metal, as opposed to the other way, whereas let me do metal and then put that into all these other genres. It's just like everything that I'm going to put out is in the umbrella of heavy music and metal, but I can bring in all this cool stuff that's sound design or hip hop production or things like EDM, and that's made it so much more fun. I just feel like now I really am at this, I've figured out in my head what is fun and what's inspirational.
Well, because it did sound like you were just doing the opposite of that, and adding the metal to those parts was really the fun part to you. So now the metal is the big part of it, and you still get to bring in those other ideas that you are good at and that you do like, but into the thing that you love. So okay, let's just involve these things. In which I mean, we might as well get to it, but the single Doom Scroll, which has Cheney on it, which is nuts.
Oh yeah,
but that's super cool. But there's this. It's not an accordion. I don't know what instrument it is at the end, but that's I think that part on that. Yeah, that's super cool. And I was immediately where's that from? Why is that
why?
It's cool, and because I love parts like that come in and are why is that in this song? But why is it working? You know what I mean? So
I'm glad it works. I actually at first was I thought it was cool, and then I kind of do sometimes these little polls with close friends. I'm what do you think? What do you think of this riff? I had a friend who was drop the accordion though, and I was damn, and I just stuck with it. I'm glad you liked it.
No, it's cool. I definitely, it's one of my favorite things is these unexpected elements into music that you're not expecting. I always pull up this band that's called they're actually were local. They were a band called Werewolf Theirwolf, but they were an indie band.
Theirwolf?
Yeah,
I'll have to check that out.
And they were an indie band, but they so it was indie rock music, and then they had a little salsa breakdown at the end of one of their songs, and I'm that's dope. You know what I mean? I think when I think Emery put out a song, and I can't remember what the song is, but I mean, typical Emery song, and at the end there's like a little jazz like break, and I'm like, I was like, that's cool, you know what I mean? So all these like little unexpected parts, and especially like, so I think I was listening to like a podcast you were on, and you said it was a South Indian like influence into it. Or
yeah. So my originally I'm from India. That's where I was born and actually raised for a good amount of my life.
Okay.
And I grew up with a pretty diverse set of music. I grew up with like classic rock and stuff like that. My dad loves rock, but I also grew up with classical music and film music from Indian cinema and stuff like that, or Indian classical. And that's something I love, and it's not something I like was trained on or anything like that. But I just feel like I like listening to a lot of stuff. I don't even listen like to metal exclusively, or even a lot of times the music I listen to, metal is like a part of it, but not everything. And with the Doomscroll song, I think the thing I've been thinking about recently is the idea of incorporating danceable beats into metal.
Okay.
So kind of the emphasis on rhythm kind of all ties into my guitar playing as well, which I think is more on the rhythmic side than it is the extreme like lead shreddy whatever. Like I'm not really interested in being like the Steve Vai, Joe Satriani kind of. I love. Yeah, that's not a diss. I love them. They're cool. I don't listen to a lot of their music. I think they're amazing guitar players. I just, when I'm writing a song, I really like the concept of rhythm and how that makes people move and dance. And with Indian music, and I think a lot of just music and like Eastern cultures and stuff too, there's a big emphasis on percussion. So with that Doomscroll song, there are parts that I had kind of produced without even guitars or anything. I was just using like splice samples and other kind of sample packs I'd found, like Indian folk drums and stuff, and just was playing around with sounds that you would use in those kind of musics, which it's not an accordion technically, but I think it's called a harmonium. It's it's like that box that like, it looks like an accordion, but instead of it being this way, it's like a little piano, and then they play it this way.
Yes. Okay,
I tried to find a Serum preset that's not even a real accordion. It's a synth. That preset I'd found in some pack or something, and it sounded as close to that as as like an organic accordion harmonium. And so the original beat for that part was just that actually centered less around the accordion and more the rhythm, because that part has like a it's like I really like triplets, and I don't know, there's something kind of with like music nerdy time, but like something about the like movement of that is just very like dancey in a different way. And it's been interesting to me to see how like different cultures will incorporate not just like the 4/4, like 1, 2, 3, but they'll have like different time signatures or just different movement with things. And like, so Doomscroll kind of, I sectioned the song with different dance rhythms from different parts, and then tried to fit the instrumental around that. So like that part, I worked backwards from the South Indian percussive feel, which was that triplets. I say it triplets. I like have an internal metronome going like, but I worked around the triplets and then did the accordion. And then before that, I had this kind of like reggaeton kind of beat, like dun, 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 dun. And I tried to do the like instrument to follow that. And, but yeah, all of that is like, I'm trying to bring all that stuff that I feel like I've put time into. Like I've put time into learning production for hip hop. I've put time into learning production of EDM or just other genres. Why not use those skills too into metal? Because it's also something that's organically unique, because I'm not like trying to even chase necessarily a sound that's popular with that. I'm just like, hey, this is kind of unique to me. Like there's, I happen to be South Indian. I happen to grow up listening to this kind of music. It's not as common, living in the US. So why not try adding that? That's like unique without trying to just like
it's like unique in a genuine way. Like it just so happens like that this like
it just
these things lined up for you to be able to put out like this type of influence in this sound that's not readily available or like very common, you know what I mean? But it's not because you're trying on purpose. Like how do we like, what's gonna do something right now? It's like, no, it's just like the actual influences you have, which I like because it comes off more genuine and authentic. Like there's a reason why is this like coming about, because like, all these things intersected and this is what like comes out as a song. But yeah, like I definitely think it feels a lot more like honest that way, and I don't know why, like, but in music and stuff like that, even with artists, like that just is able to strike more of a chord with me than if it feels like, oh, you're just creating what like somebody else is making and you're trying to do it too. But yeah, I like seeing how people's like actual like influences like create something new, and it lets you create something new, that's not again something that somebody else is necessarily doing, but it's a way for you to create something with what you love and adding elements that you just again are just influences. But you said you started like with primarily like production and like hip hop and EDM.
Yeah, I mean, so that's not where I like started, but it's kind of like I feel like I'm hitting this full circle of like getting. I think what I'm doing now is closer to who I was when I was in like high school or middle school learning guitar. Of just like I want to write cool guitar music and shred and metal. Like I started with rock and metal and that kind of stuff, and then I was always into hip hop. Then once I started learning production going into college, like just how to how to use a DAW and all that kind of stuff. But also I really got into mixing and mastering and but not far enough into it of being like that's what I like more than being an artist. For a while I thought I wanted to be a mix engineer, and I'm so glad I didn't go down that path because I think those are all a means to an end for me to being an artist. I do mix, I do like production. I still do like doing that on freelance. I just don't think it could ever be at the expense of me also pursuing art. But with the production part, once I started learning I started learning production for metal and rock. But once you start learning a DAW and stuff like that, then it's like, oh, I can learn how to do beats and I can learn how to do all that kind of stuff. So when I was in college, I really got into like trap and stuff like that. I was really big into Kendrick Lamar and Kanye and all that kind of stuff. And so I started writing that. And also with hip hop, one of the convenient parts is you don't need as much gear to write music. So like being in college, I was studying an engineering degree. I was working a lot. I was like, usually I wasn't at home. I was in a like coffee shop, or I'm in the library or something like that, and I'm trying to procrastinate doing homework. So all you need is headphones and your laptop, and then you just open up FL Studio or whatever, and then you can write a beat. And versus like with guitar, it was a lot harder to write on the fly. Is more
kind of take that with you and
it was more like I have to first be at home and I have to have a guitar. That in itself is like a limiting factor. So I think that limitation in a way got me into producing those kind of things. But I think all those, like with hip hop, even with hip hop, I think one of the things that I really enjoy is just the rhythmic aspect of it. It's like it's like danceable. It's very like,
and kind of the same thing with EDM.
Yeah,
so like the dance,
all that kind of stuff. Yeah. There's something like, and being an instrumental musician too. Like something I'm trying to work on is vocals, like me doing vocals. Okay. I sang when I was a kid, but I've always been an instrumentalist. Like I feel like I have the things to do everything but put out vocals, and that's something I want to change. But I think because I've seen it as an instrumentalist, then the genre barriers kind of just fall. It's just more like, I can write instrumentals of anything, versus like, I feel like if I was a vocalist, then that would immediately put me more into a genre, because, if you sing, that doesn't mean you rap, or if you scream, that doesn't mean you rap, or that. I feel like I've just kind of already seen it as like, I'm a computer musician anyways. So like if I'm programming metal drums, it's really the same concept as programming hip hop drums. Yeah. It's just a different VST or a different mindset, but the actual like fundamental of it is kind of the same, like the setup and yeah.
So it's kind of a way to eliminate those like boxes and like kind of barriers to be able to
yeah
put whatever. He's like, I can pretty like you learned one skill that kind of serves you in whatever genre like you want to kind of work through. I mean, saying you're a computer musician, I did see something where like you are starting to write your songs a lot more MIDI first.
Yeah.
Okay, how's that transition been?
It's I hate that I love it because it's a lot more convenient in many ways.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as what I was saying about in college of why doing like EDM or hip hop was easy, because you always have a laptop and headphones with you anyways in college. So the setup is easy. So when I'm doing MIDI, like a lot of times I'll just be sitting on the couch and like put The Office on or something, and like I just treat it sounds so clinical and sounds so like uncreate or unmusical, but it's like I'll put something on and treat it like how you're looking through emails or something, you know, like how you're just cleaning out your inbox, or when you're doing some boring, you know, chore or something like that. It's like I'll put something on and be like, all right, time to open up my DAW and write something, and I can weirdly multitask, so that doesn't distract me. So the convenient part is just like I'm not having to go and sit at my studio room and all that kind of stuff. I can just kind of do it on the fly. The hard part is if you want to emulate things that you would do on a guitar, I think it just takes so much more work. Like programming guitars, I don't program them in the way that I think is realistic, in the sense of like I'm not trying to emulate exactly how I'd play on the guitar. I'm trying to write something that's more hyper polished, that I can then use I can transform my guitar playing to almost be more mechanical, or mechanical sounds so bad, but like I can use MIDI as a tool to push my boundaries with guitar, as opposed to using my guitar to be like my knowledge with guitar to be a better MIDI musician. So yeah, I don't even get into the like with guitar programming. There's so many different parameters you can change to like, you know, make it sound more human and thing. I just turn all of it off. I turn most of it off, and I just try to make it sound more like a synth. And then what I'll do is I'll go and learn that part. But so it works for many. It's working for a lot of songs, but then there's some songs where it just doesn't work, because I think it works depending on the style or genre. Like when you're trying to do like big chords, or you're trying to do something a little like I have a song that I'm working on that's less like the Doom Scroll song, where it's not like that super low djenty kind of thing. It's more like a 2000s metalcore style thing. And when I tried programming guitars for that, and I was like, this is a nightmare. Like, because you can't get the same expressions out of like trying to write an Under Oath style riff with like MIDI guitars, versus like if I'm trying to write a like low tuned 8-string thing that's already sounds robotic. No, I definitely like understand. And again, like even you say like a lot of these terms like sound bad, but I think it's more like you're using it as a tool. You know what I mean? So it's whatever serves the song. Like if this one, like, it serves better for me to play it, cool, and play it, and you're using it to elevate your guitar playing in a way. Like, you know, I think about it when like I used to write like vocals like that way. I used to write stuff that I couldn't do, and I'm just like, you know what, I'll have to figure it out. I just did that recently. Like a friend of mine sent me a song. He's like, can you put vocals on this? I'm like, sure. And then when I wrote, the first time I wrote it, I'm like, I can't do it like right now. I go, but when it comes to recording, like I'm just gonna figure it out. Like, and it made me push myself to figure out how to do something, and I ended up with something I wouldn't have tried otherwise. Crazy, had I written my save thing. You know what I mean? Exactly. You're not limited by your knowledge in a way. You're not limited by your preconceived like and I think that's why I do it too. Is it's I know ultimately what like most of the guitars on the final thing are gonna be actual organic guitars. Like with Doom Scroll, I wrote all the guitars MIDI, but then I still went to record the actual guitars. World on Fire, my single before that, I left the leads as MIDI. Because I just think it sounded cool. So ultimately, too, if something sounds cool, that's my biggest priority. You know, the music sounds cool. I can always figure out how to play it and do this live, but I don't want to. cheapen I don't want to cheapen the final product just because of how I got there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the learning, pushing yourself to do that, that's been kind of a common thing. Like I used to write MIDI and stuff and try to learn it for live stuff when I did hip hop and stuff. Like even if I did a hip hop part or a EDM part, I'd still try to learn how to play it on guitar. And something that kind of inspired me with this whole MIDI thing was doing guitars for Brandon, the artist I work with live, Brandon Burkhalter. So all his guitars were MIDI sequenced, and when I went to learn it, I was like, this is very different than how I would write. This is like, because he plays keys and he wrote guitar. He's the one who told me about that plugin I use, Shreddage.
Yeah.
So that kind of that's kind of what inspired me with that, was just how different I felt like that those guitars sounded, just by the very nature that they weren't written on guitar. So that now, when I first saw those guitars, I was like, this is weird. This feels impossible. You know, how am I going to learn this? This is so weird. But now I'm like, oh yeah, just that song. And it's kind of, so maybe it's like something I find now that's just like super weird and stupid and undoable with MIDI. Maybe like in a year after I practice it, it's just like, oh yeah, that thing.
And those, I mean, I'm a very big I'm very like pro collaborating because of stuff like that, where you realize like somebody else writes something like you can't do that, or like you're not supposed to write this way, or that's not how I would do it, and it gets you out of that box and that idea of like because I would get into those really like modes where I'm like, I would listen to like an instrumental or something and be like, this is how you would write a song to it, and then I would sit in on my friend's studio sessions, and then they'd write something completely different, and I'm like, my brain is not going there. He's like, but theirs is, and that sounds good. So it got me out of I would get in these like spots where my head would kind of want to tell me like the way I'm writing it in my head is the only way that this song could be written, and then seeing other people write completely different, I'm like, that's kind of cool, and it lets me, when I go back to writing stuff, like, okay, I don't have to stick to this kind of thing. And there's also like a moment where I was recording a song I thought was like, this is really great. And DJ who was recording me, he was like, oh, like this is exactly what you did on like the other song we did. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, here I am thinking I'm a genius, and I'm writing like in the same like parameters and box.
And that was for vocals?
Those are vocals, yeah.
I feel like I was going to ask, do you find it even harder with vocals? Because I would imagine with vocals, it's even more protective because it's like your literal. I don't know. Like something I think about is like if someone doesn't like my guitar playing, that's like an activity I'm doing. But if someone just straight up doesn't like my voice, I'm like, that's me. That's just me. It's like I guess I can work on it, but there's like the general timbre of my voice or something.
Yeah,
it's like that's just what I was born with.
I mean, the thing that was good is that I didn't like my voice for a long time, so I was my biggest hater. But no, like, and that transition took a while for me to like actually even like think that I was like a decent singer. You know what I mean? Forever. But like it was funny because I haven't recorded anything in a while, and like when my friend offered me this, I'm like, sure, I'll do it. And I realized how much more comfortable I am now, where I'm like, again, with even like taking risks of being like, I'll just figure that out. Like I'll get to there, and whatever comes out, like comes out. And sometimes it just has to be like, I need somebody else to listen to it and be like, I like this, or saying, because otherwise like I'm to a point where I'm like, I like pretty much most of the stuff that I do.
Yeah.
But I like still people being able to be like that. Again, like you're in your comfort zone. And like, DJ and I were in that band together, so he knows my patterns and stuff like that. So if I need to push something or try this type of thing, he's like my person that I can.
You like, trust his judgment.
Yeah. Which I had this kid in here last week. His name is Nick Ryland, and he does like solo instrumental work too. And he's that's actually who I did the song for. But we were talking, and he's got like a group of like 3 friends that are like all writers like in music and stuff like that, and they'll he was telling me how they write music together, and it's all like over Discord calls, and like it's all like they're sending each other like their sessions like back and forth during the call. And he's like, cool, you write this and that. And like the song he sent me, he's like, yeah, we wrote that like in one night, like because we were just going back and forth on that. But he's got like his people that he's like, this is who I send stuff to, and they'll send like, that's who I trust to give me like notes back on things.
It's
stuff like
if I have friends who I'm like giving like driving home or something, like I went to a concert. Like I went to a show in Deep Elm, and then I was driving my friend home, and I was like, All right, well, I need to show you all these mixes that I've got. Like, it's like if I'm giving you a ride home, it's like you're captive for like listening to my unfinished my material. It's like, bro, I need you to like give me your, like feedback on this. But yeah, I mean, it's good to kind of. I think it's hard. It's like you need to have the balance of just like, to some extent, being a little, maybe not stubborn, but a little bit like take something with a grain of salt and still like make that decision of whether or not it's like this is your vision or something. Like, so like that accordion thing you're talking about. Yeah. First time I heard that was actually something I thought about when I kind of went back and forth on of like I tried changing it to a guitar part and I was like, it just doesn't sound good, so I might as well just trash it. And then I trashed it and then I was like, but now it just sounds empty. So I kind of just pushed past what my friend was telling me, and I had to it does build a little bit of a trust in yourself as well too. And I think that's the hard part, is sometimes knowing like I can also be kind of arrogant and stubborn too. So and like there are times when you're just insecure when it's your creative stuff. So sometimes I have to catch myself saying like, okay, I know I want to share this with someone, but I'm really more sharing this because I'm anticipating an excited feeling. But like I need to be honest with myself to be like, am I ready for the actual constructive criticism? Like if not, like that's totally fine. I need to own that part of like I don't actually want to like I want to live a little bit in this magic right now. Just like, I wrote the coolest thing ever.
Well, I mean, one thing, like, you should be like that way after all the stuff that you write. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way you should approach all this stuff. You should be hyped on it. You know what I mean? And it's really, if you're looking for criticism that I think preface that, because I've had like friends show me songs and stuff like that. But if they're not like, send me a criticism or something like that, I'm not saying shit about that, because I know on the other end it's just like you wrote something cool that you want to show off, and I'm gonna listen to it. You know what I mean? And most of the time, again, like most of the time, it's not. I don't think I've ever heard something that was like it's bad. It's just like I've had time where I'm like I don't know if I'm as excited as you are, but I'll find stuff in it that I like, and I'm like, this is cool, blah blah blah. But being a little stubborn in the idea, which I think in this case, like that's kind of what it was. Like you knew what you were going for, and maybe the critique of whoever's coming at you saying like you need to take that out isn't seeing what you're wanting to actually do with it. Like they see it from the point of view of them listening to a song and something, and just it threw them off. But you're seeing it through like, I know what idea I'm trying to put forth in here, so I need to stick to my guns a little bit and like push it through, because I know I'm not gonna, again, like you said, like if you took it out, it felt empty. Like you were feeling that. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'll find a way to make this work, because I need it to be in this song, And like music is that. It's that risk of you having to take your chances, especially in a solo project. It's all you.
That is the hard part of being a solo artist, and sometimes I do struggle with that. And I think with this last song, it wasn't a collaboration in the same way as I featured two artists on it, but they. Like Cheney had written all the lyrics and all the vocals for the whole song too. So it was a little like, that was kind of cool, because that was something I was able to let go in a little bit of my own, just to kind of see like what someone else can bring to a project, where it's like, this is something I wouldn't have even done, or like that guest solo that Rohan did on it.
Sick.
So, my dude,
I love the way that comes in.
I've been trying to learn it on guitar, and I'm like, oh god, this is pretty wild.
The tone of that guitar, everything just like is perfect for that section.
So I'm trying to use it as a learning experience too, to see how can I, going forward, balance being a solo artist, but still bring in some of that like band feel, or the benefits of collaborating with artists, where it does push your art towards something that is like on your own you wouldn't have even come up with an idea. And to me, I think a big one is just finding the areas of that I'm just not as good at, and like so I think I tend to be a little bit more controlling or picky when it comes to areas that, you know, feed to my ego. Whereas like if it's something with guitars, something, I'll be a little bit more like, no, I think I'm a little bit more stubborn with it, where I'm like, no, I think this is good or whatever. But like if it comes to lyrics, like I kind of had this like, here's a very like a 2-sentence blurb on what my idea of the song was, but like run with it. Like I want to just find people who are best at what they do and just reach out to people and collaborate people, because it's like I can't do what you do. So I'm not gonna like dictate to a word like down. I'm not gonna dictate everything you're doing on it, because why would I collaborate otherwise? I could just do it on my own otherwise. So I'm trying to do that where it's like bringing in fresh ideas and fresh perspective and stuff like that, just so that when I'm writing too, it's like, I don't know, I think it's healthy, and it's a little bit like I think it's a little better for just feeling like, I don't know, I worked on this with someone, as opposed to like when your solo stuff, it can be really hard to sometimes just like do every single thing and just like you're the only sounding board and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, going forward, I want to have more vocals. I don't really want to be an instrumental artist anymore. I really like instrumentals, and I don't know if that's going to change me being an instrumentalist, but I think like, so this single is leading into an album that I'm working on, and I've kind of changed my course of action with that to want to focus on collaboration and featuring vocals and stuff like that, and also push myself to do vocals. But I think just having more people involved, but in a way that's like still like, hey, this is still my thing. But it's hard. I'm trying to find like how to do that where it's not like defensive, but like it's like, here, I had this idea and I started this idea, but like, how do I bring in people who can just like elevate it and make it like better? If that makes sense. I can start the framework, then I bring in cool people who just like make this song way better than what I started out with.
I mean, honestly, I think just keeping that idea and keep doing just collaborative efforts, one like bit by bit, and just learning more about people's writing, and that way you're more familiar with like, what is this element going to like actually add, or like I'm looking for this element that I don't want to necessarily do. Like, I think you can do it, you know what I mean? And just hopefully finding the right like people to partner up with, which like I said on that song in particular, like Doom Scroll, I think that just worked so perfectly. Both of those, like, you know, features on it made the song just feel like a whole, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like there's three people separately like creating their own parts that just
kind of crazy,
separate.
right?
Yeah,
it's
it
like,
just like
it doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel disjointed. That was my first thought. I was
cohesive,
like, I was like, and they, you know, it's like people. That's the beautiful part. It's like you can live completely separate, and like, you know, it's just like you have a 2-sentence blurb, and then somehow you write this thing that still is cohesive. I'm like, wow, I was blown away. I was like, because pretty much what was sent to me was like, yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm like, I don't really. There's like maybe a little change here and there, but like that's about it. And it blows my mind. I'm glad you feel that way.
No, it definitely like feels like a very like cohesive song together. It just makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how, like, I was like, maybe that doesn't make sense, that phrase, but like the song itself is, again, just sounds, as dumb as this phrase is going to sound, it just sounds like a song. You know what I mean? Like everything works well together, every part of it, which is cool that, again, seeing that it's an actual collaborative effort. How did you make these two connections?
Instagram.
Yeah.
just DM on Instagram. I got kind of lucky with that in the sense that I mean, DMing, like messaging on Instagram is like, there's so many messages and stuff like that. But I'd actually thought about Chinese vocals originally for World on Fire. I'm a huge NTO's fan. I love her music, and that's another thing too with the collaborations is I'm trying to keep it in mind, like not just like, oh, I want a singer on this. It's like I have a specific like style or singer in mind that I would love to work with, and I don't just want to have vocals for the sake of vocals, but it's like I want to have like I have a vision of what style of vocals would work, and I don't just want to, like, I wouldn't add a vocalist that I didn't think fit the song just for the sake of getting that. So, because that's why World on Fire and ultimately was a instrumental, because I had the idea originally for that song. I was like, this would sound really sick with like Entheos's vocals. Like that's kind of what was inspiring me when I was writing the instrumental. Just that like really percussive style of like, I don't even know how to do it. That was like a really bad impression, but I think it just fits the kind of percussive sound that I was doing and the like tight, weird proggy thing. And I happened to message her for that one, and she responded and was like, "Hey, I'm not really doing guest vocal stuff right now, but I'll let you know if that changes in the future or something." And then so that's why World on Fire, I'm just going to send it instrumental. I'm not going to like try to find someone else or anything.
Because that was the vision already.
Yeah, it was already the vision. I was like,
compromise.
I genuinely was like, I don't know who else in my head I would want on that.
Yeah.
And then with Doom Scroll, I kind of still had the same idea because Doom Scroll was very musically similar to World on Fire. And I was actually ready to just put it out as an instrumental. I knew I contacted Rohan about the guest solo, and I'd been following his stuff on Instagram, and I just sent him a message, and then because I think I saw that he was taking guest solo work. It just kind of happened naturally because I think I saw him post a story or something about having slots for guest solos work. So I just messaged it, and then I was like, cool. And then I was ready to post up the song instrumental, and then excuse me, I saw that Cheney had posted something about like she's taking some guest solos or guest vocal spots, and I was like, in my head, I'm like, it's like that meme with like the math and stuff, like everything's kind of aligning, and I was like, my first thought was like, well, I already had this like plan of like just releasing it, and then I was like, no, screw the plan. Why would I like not go for, not at least try for that? So I just messaged her, and kind of immediately it just was like, hey, like I've got this song and I'd love to do it, and I just emailed this song, and then she liked it and went from there. So Instagram's pretty great for connections. Yeah, I mean that's how we met. I feel like the cool part though is that I've been able to make like in-person friends like this and stuff, like actual organic friendships and connections, which I really enjoy. I feel like as a musician, that platform above the others I've really enjoyed just from like I have TikTok and I'm starting my YouTube page, but I haven't really gotten as much into TikTok. I'm trying to use it more. I just feel like I don't naturally use it as much. But like Instagram, I feel like has really helped just from like making friends and networking and actually like converting like online stuff into like real people things, like for shows that I feel like I've been able to build a bigger fan base just for like even coming out to concerts and stuff like that. So God bless Instagram.
Honestly, like that's how like it does. It's really cool when it translates to like, oh, I met you in person kind of thing, and then I think and then because online is a little fleeting, like there's so much coming at you all the time that yes, an in-person connection that's like cool, even though like we could like only meet once, is like cool, but I know like that person, like we met in person, and it helps a little more, but it does open up the window to all these like collaborative efforts. I mean, you're talking about like those 2 features on it again, like that just for messaging's on Instagram. You have this song now that like,
I know, right? It's like sometimes I think about like, what if I had not checked my phone that day or something, and like I mean that's not a reason to be stuck to the internet, which is ironic because this song. I've actually had like this last week I've kind of been burned out from like just posting online, and I kind of took some time, and the ironic part is that like I wrote this song about like social media and stuff, and now I'm like, I don't want to be on social media, but and sometimes I'm like, man, had I not, there are a lot of moments where I'm like, had I not, I don't know, randomly seen something on there, I'm like, there are a lot of cool things happening in my life, not just like online, that are because of a really weird coincidence of like seeing that. Like, like I happened to see that they were taking guest solo spots, and it worked kind of perfect timing wise too. Like, had I already submitted that song and then seen that,
Like,
I would have been screwed. Yeah. And then, like, this song would not be it wouldn't be something that, you know, I'm as like proud of in the same way, or it's something, it wouldn't have felt as whole. So yeah, the collaboration and stuff like that, and especially having vocals, that really gave it like a story, I think. And that gave it like as much as I like, you know, crazy instruments and stuff, I've been thinking about, like, you know, live is cool when I see bands like sing and stuff like that. So,
well, yeah, I think I've talked about it a little bit with like an instrumental band versus, like, you know, a band that has vocals on it, and it's just because the majority of people can relate to doing vocals, and I at least that's the way I see it. Is the way I see it is that most people, as bad as they'll ever sing, like, they'll sing in the car,
they can do it,
shower,
right?
They can do it, but seeing like someone play guitar, and, like, for example, me, like, I grew up playing like classical guitar and stuff like that, but
really?
I can't do
Like nylons.
yeah, like
that's
nylon string,
awesome.
yeah. But yeah, seeing like people play like electric and stuff like that was that transition I never made. So I see that, I'm like, oh, I can't play that, but I can still find nuancey things. Because I'm like, okay, like, I understand that. But for someone coming just from a casual listener, it's not as not as relatable, and maybe not as captivating because you don't know exactly what's happening or going on, or maybe just I don't understand the gist. But which is another reason why I like that you focus on rhythm and rhythmic patterns, because that's like stuff you can dance to. Again, another natural thing that most people can keep a beat. You know what I mean? Most people can nod their head enough. But yeah, I remember I had a friend of mine's band who they had written a new song or something at the time, and I remember them playing it. And in the middle of it, it was like a metal, like, genty song, but we were like dancing in the crowd because I'm like, this groove is
genty,
so sick. Yeah,
gent stuff is like dancing.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
and I realized that's what I like loved about it. So it's funny because I there's this stuff in like Spanish music called corridos, and it's like this.
How do you say that?
Corridos.
Corridos.
Is yeah. And I was looking at the strumming pattern that they use, and I'm like, that sounds really like. If you translated that, it sounded like gent just on an, like, I don't know what the guitar is called, but it's very like rhythmic pattern.
Syncopated, like down.
Yeah, and I'm like, this would sound really sick and something like that. And I had a friend on the podcast, and he's like, oh, that exists. It's like it's a band called Ladrones, which means thieves, and it's so sick. Like, they do it so perfect. Like, I'll have to show it to you.
Yeah, send me that.
It's so cool, and I'm like, I love that. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, these rhythms, I think rhythm transcends like language, transcends like a lot of stuff. Same thing with like same way like that vocals do. Like, I can listen to a song that's not in a language that I know, but if I can recognize those patterns, but rhythm is probably it definitely is the second thing. If I wasn't a singer, I think rhythm would be primary. Like, what catches my attention nowadays. Like, now it's definitely like something, if I realize like I'm moving or nodding my head or something like that, I'm like, I like this. Like, I search for that a lot more, and it's easier to comprehend than like you were saying, like the lead work and like shreddy stuff. I'm like, that's cool, but it's hard for me to go for like second or third or fourth listens or whatever on stuff that's like really, really complicated. But if it's got a nice groove, a nice rhythm, then it's definitely, I'm able to play it over and over again.
And I think that's why with like you're talking about something transcending, like you're talking about how it's like it's like a universal language almost. I think with metal, why it sometimes is hard is the first thing people hear is the screaming, and then they're like, because that was me growing up. I didn't really like metal or extreme metal because I just didn't get the vocals. I thought it was a little scary or weird. I couldn't understand what they were saying. I liked like System of a Down and stuff, and they got into that heavy thing, but there was still like hooks and stuff like that. But so with what's funny is with instrumental metal, I do feel like there's a different sense of the universal whatever, like universal like language, because people can understand the instruments. Like you could show like, you know, a 60-year-old person this thing, and they're like, okay, I like it because there's not the screaming or whatever. And I get that you're doing this thing, but then they can't partake in it in the same way. But then with this song, something I thought that was really cool that was done with the vocals is it was very, you know, harsh, and, you know, it was what, you know, the death metal, whatever Chaney does, but there's still a hook that is like audible, like the doom scroll. So I feel like that to me, I think that's something I really liked about how this song turned out and what she had done with it too, is that even though there's like it kind of addressed some of my hesitations originally with metal, because something I've wanted to do is bring metal to like a wide audience of people. But in my head, it's like, okay, a good way to do that is just not have vocals.
Yeah.
But then with this song, it's kind of helped me believe that like, oh, well, you can have extreme and harsh vocals, but it's a way that like when I listened to this thing, I was like, there's like catchy parts of it that like I can audibly understand. Like I can audibly understand what, you know, she's saying. I'm actually paying attention to the lyrics. Because there's sometimes with death metal stuff, there's like an extreme where it's just like, I don't know what they're saying at all. It's just like, and it's cool. And that's cool for like metalheads, and it's cool for, you know, we are all in on the thing. But like, I feel like with this song, there is like a universal thing, or I can imagine right now, like playing this live and being like, oh, I could see someone singing along to this. Yeah. That's cool. Like that's something I want to achieve now, at least. That wasn't my vision at first, but now I'm kind of like,
this song kind of opened.
Yeah, it's opening my and the hard part is just how am I going to do it, and that's something I'm trying to figure out.
Is it changed like you were saying now, it changed the plan a little bit?
Yeah, because now it's like it's like, well, I'm not the vocalist per se, so it's like I've got to find, you know, people who can do that and stuff like that. But I think it's exciting and it's cool, and it's also gives me, I feel like it transforms how I'm writing instrumentals too, because I'm not like trying to focus on filling every section with a ton of things. Like with Doom Scroll, even though I wrote the instrumental assuming it's going to be instrumental, but I kind of held hopes for there would be vocals, maybe. So I did cut back on some of the instrumentation. Like I didn't try to just flex the guitar at all times and stuff like that. And even now when I'm writing stuff, I'm trying to write it in a way that like, there are parts of the guitars going crazy, but like there are parts where it locks in and there's that pocket and there's that groove, or maybe the guitar cuts back, just because if I were to have vocals, that's how it doesn't clash, and it can leave room for that kind of stuff. So yeah, I really like when I can sing along to things too, because when I'm in the car, I'm tuning out sometimes to like the crazy shreddy stuff. I'm more just like trying to sing and like, you know, get through my day at work and stuff like that.
No, definitely. And like and playing again, if you're talking about like possibly taking it live like someday, it's the greatest like feeling to see people out there like singing along to stuff. And and singing along, like as long as there's a part in the song that, because I'm notorious now these days for not knowing lyrics to anything, like but I will sing because I know melodies to like all the songs that I like, but I'll literally be at concerts singing just melodies, and I'm like, these are the words that I think I hear, you know. But then like there's like maybe a chorus or a hook or something, like I know that one for sure, so that one's like the part. Or even
if you don't, if it's simple enough, they kind of instruct you, right? The singer kind of gets, like there's an Underoath song I saw them play live, it's like da na na na. I don't remember that song, but when I see it live, I was like, I started singing along because it's like it repeats for a while, and it's like a collaborative thing.
And I've had that where like I'll listen to it and I'm like, I don't know the words, but I'll hear it live and I'm like, wait, I heard the chorus, like I'm gonna sing it the next time it comes around, kind of thing. It's just like, it's a fun interact. And again, live shows it's a totally different world than just like writing stuff. So having that in mind is kind of works, because like I've talked to bands who like specifically they're like, oh, this song was written for live performances, like it wasn't like that's the way like it was, you know. So like it's kind of cool how people like structure stuff around and be like, oh, with that in mind. But even when you write songs like that, like keeping in mind like, okay, what do I want people to be doing, you know, like or whatever, even when they listen to it at home or something like that. But I think that's exciting. I think you're maybe writing some really cool stuff.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
And again, like there's just like a few, because that's like the first single off like what it's gonna be the album.
That's not gonna be on the album, but that's just kind of like to me this is like I might have one more single out, or I know that with the album I'm gonna have singles out. That's kind of like a standalone. I kind of want to stop just putting out only standalone things and put out like a bigger thing of work. I have like I've been working on this album for quite a while, and funny enough, those songs were kind of procrastination efforts.
Really?
Yeah, those were the genesis of that was me like avoiding writing the album, because with an album, it's like I feel like there's so much that you're keeping in mind. And this comes back to the being a solo person versus a band. I think being a band where you have like clear distinction of work, it's like a little less overwhelming because you're just like, I need to write guitars. Someone can help with the structure. To me, the hardest part is just the structure. It's not the recording, or because once I get the structure and stuff, usually tracking takes not that long. It's just getting the song written, getting, pushing past like wanting to write and record. I mean, that's its own hurdle, is just like the emotional, like, life is a lot, you got jobs and stuff like that. So it's like, how do you just keep that momentum going? But all of that together was just kind of a lot. And then funny enough, I was just like procrastinating writing music by writing other music, and that's how World on Fire came out. And that came out in like 2 days, and I was like, whoa. And I was like, those sounded really different than the album. So then I just put that out, and then Doom Scroll again was like, I should probably get back to the album, but I got this sound that sounds cool, and let me go and try that. And I'm trying to lean into that stuff, but I am trying to like bring it. I'm glad I kind of went on those side quests, because now it's changed what the album is looking like, because like with Doom Scroll, it changed the album in terms of like keeping room for vocals and just keeping in mind that like, I don't want this to be a full instrumental album. There might be some songs that are instrumental, but now I'm like reevaluating some of the songs to be like, does this song work, or does this demo work, or does this demo work? And so Doom Scroll is the last like standalone kind of single that I want to put out. I'll have some more singles coming out, but they're going to be part of the bigger work. That's what I'm holding myself accountable. That it may be in like 4 months, I'm going to like change my mind. I keep switching back and forth, especially nowadays. It's like singles are like, as an artist, singles are better for you. Like singles are like, just from a pure business standpoint. I'm still building a fan base. I'm not like a huge artist or anything. So it's like being, trying to build up your fan base organically from the ground up too. It's, I am keeping in mind some of that, like the business side of like, how do I build up that so that when there's an album, there's actually like ears listening? Cause I don't want to just put an album out and then it just, it doesn't, I knowing that I could have done more to really, like
push it, you listen to, because the album isn't a big endeavor, you know what I mean? And for it to be like, I put it out and like no one's listened to it like a few days later, a week later, or whatever, long. It's I think that's the balance that artists like need to really take a really hard look at and be like, hey, yes, you did work hard on this album, and that should be enough. Sure, in an ideal world. I go, but it isn't in this one. Like, you have to give your music its best shot to be heard, which entails all this stuff, like social media stuff, creating content for it, planning out your singles, like how separated should be out, like all that. Yes, depending on who you are, like might be annoying, might be like, I don't like thinking about it. I just want to worry about writing music. And like, sure. But again, if you want to give your music the best shot, like I feel like it's so important to have a plan. Like, people talk about like, oh, like I hate having to have like a release plan. I'm like, yes, but your music like deserves it,
Yeah. And I'm really working on that because I suck at that kind of stuff. I'm getting a lot better with it. And it's not that I suck at doing it. It's I suck at starting that. And I suck at the initial planning of it. So the way I'm kind of trying to strike a balance is like learning from like with singles, like or just in general, trying to think of it less as like, this is what is supposed to happen. Like, you're supposed to have an album, and think of it more like, all right, what can I take? What are the benefits of both sides? Like, an album is a bigger piece of work and a cohesive whatever, but singles do, like, outside of the business thing, singles do offer, like, as an artist, from a workflow perspective, I feel like I put my all into that single, and I don't limit myself, because sometimes when I'm writing an album, I'll be like, oh, well, this other song has this cool part, so maybe I shouldn't do that. And I'm like, wait, why?
Yeah.
Let me just put everything into one song and then move to the next one. Put everything into this one. So I think with the singles and stuff like that, the thing I'm trying to keep in mind is like with the album, kind of treating it almost like this is an album of singles that will have a kind of similar sound across them. But I'm going to try to, originally I was trying to make this like one big massive piece of work that's just like one song but split into many. I'm not doing that anymore. I want this to be like a collection. I want this to be like kind of like a really unique, diverse collection of songs that, you know, happen to have a common thread, but there'll be singles. I've been playing with the idea of putting them all out as singles and doing it kind of like how on Netflix shows now or Amazon Prime, you see like, you know how you have like the weekly episodes for like I watch Rings of Power on Amazon and like I kind of like that they don't just release the whole season. Yeah, it's just like every week. I'm not gonna put a song out every week, but like almost taking it as like here's the year and here's your year of music as like one thing, and it's like almost like a broadcasting kind of thing. I've been playing around with the idea.
That's cool. I've seen different release, but the fact that you said it's kind of feels just like you want to make it feel like a collection of like singles, like they're all like powerful enough, but it's not this giant like work. Actually, I've seen it's probably just because I pay attention to them a lot, but I've seen Sleep Token do a few different release strategies, and they've changed it for their past 3 albums. But the first one they released, Sundowning, they did a single every 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah. So every 2 weeks there was this like a new single, and like they all had like little symbols and stuff. Their artwork, visualizers for it or something. Nothing too crazy. Like it was very simple. But you knew every 2 weeks you were getting like another song.
Yeah, that like know.
It was like oh, okay, cool. Like and you can make it a big deal. Like, oh, this, you know, this week, like this is going, and then create stuff that's just for like that song. So it's like, yeah, the song releases, but then you also have a plan to like this whole week we're focused on like this one song, you know, or in the next 2 weeks, like this is what we're talking about. And then by the time that you're, you know, people are maybe wanting to move on to the next thing, cool, another one, you know what I mean? The only thing, and again, this might not be an issue with yours because of what you're trying to do with it. The only thing for me on that album is that now I can only see that album as an album full of singles. Yeah. And I don't see it as a cohesive project necessarily. But it just depends. Now I don't visualize it that way. That was something that happened to me.
I'm going to hit you up for my like planning out this thing. Yeah, you're a good coach for this.
This is literally just like what I pay attention to. But the last one, I like the way they did it. They did I think they did like a song they did another every 2 weeks, I think, for the first like 4. And then they waited like a month. So
I think 2 weeks is a little
lot. Yeah, it's a little fast.
Because I feel like the problem is too, it's like you're not, it's like there's the longevity that it's hard. It's like I feel like it might be a little bit, I guess the other thing is like if you're working with a team and you're working with a bunch of people, then 2 weeks is fine. But I'm thinking for myself where I'm like, man, 2 weeks is hard. That's a lot of like,
yeah, they'd have to like be planned like those 2 weeks from like super ahead of time. And it was a lot. And again, like I personally don't know how like they did that one. But what I liked about their last release is that I think they did a few where you were expecting it to be like, okay, we're getting another one. And then all of a sudden it was a month and then like nothing was coming out. And then you got one like a month later. But it was like, maybe you don't do 2 weeks, but it was like a little quicker, so 1 to 2 like pretty close to each other. Then it was like a little bit of a longer period, and they're like, okay, because you were expecting one, and then they made you wait longer, and then after that they made you wait like another like 2 months before they released anything else. But I was still able, on that case, I was still able to listen to the album and feel like I was listening to like a whole album. You know what I mean? Because the thing I like about the singles is that it for me it felt like it spoiled the movie for me, because I'm like, because they released the last song on the day the album released, and I'm like, well, I've heard everything but the last song. You know what I mean? So but there's I don't even know like which way is right. It's literally what's like gonna work for you, because like what are you able to put out, you know?
And
like,
I think the thing I've been telling myself is like, you know what, don't just fall into the analysis paralysis. Just like finish the songs and then figure out what to do after.
Yeah.
Because I'll tend to have that habit I've worked on it a lot recently, for like the last year or two, but I'll have the habit of like trying to plan so much or try to think in like these conceptual, theoretical terms before I even just start. And then now I kind of have this like, just write it, just go write.
Yeah.
Just go and actually just start creating a bunch. Like it's like almost having the like quantity over quality kind of thing first, and just get every idea out and then see all the ones, as opposed to just keeping them all in your head.
Yeah.
And like, you know, play around with it. It's like, you know, maybe I think that's like, it's also like we want to maximize the like, we want that thing to just work right away. But it's like, I'm trying to keep in mind too, like, go find out if it works. Like go, like with these singles, like there's something to learn from each of them too. It's like with this single, I definitely spent a lot more time with the marketing and promo and creating social media stuff. And I learned that only because I put World on Fire out. And then there were things where I was like, oh crap, I wish I had this ahead of time, or I wish I'd planned this ahead of time. And like with my early singles, I'm like, I had the like, let me just put it out. Let me just go and put it out. And then I was like, dude, I need to like plan stuff ahead of time.
Yeah.
But the thing that I respect about when I did that was I didn't think as much. I just was like, cool, go do it. Just put it out. And I'm trying to bring some of that element back into it of just the like, just keep doing, just keep.
You got to keep, I do that. That's one of my biggest issues is keeping a lot of stuff in my head or coming up with an idea that I'm like, that's a good idea. And then the mistake I made is I tell people like what the idea is, and then they're like, "That sounds awesome," and I'm like, "Cool, gratification achieved."
Yeah,
I do that.
I do that a lot. It's like you've got the rough mix, and you already want to share it, or you want to show a clip on Instagram or whatever, and then you know it sounds cool, and then you're like, "Cool, well, I released a song," and it's like, no, that's not a release.
Yeah,
like,
so now like I have to do like a lot of the stuff, and yes, a lot of times I'll go back and be like, "Fuck, I fucked this up," or this and that, and sometimes like it doesn't matter. Like for example, like I do a lot of like the content and social media and stuff like that for like Noise Ride and Chill Sounds or whatever. And I had one video that was randomly went viral for fuck whatever, I don't know. And I realized that one of the clips, like I moved it and there's like a black bar at the bottom of the screen, and like it drove me nuts. But I'm like, you know what? But that got put out, and that, you know, it became something instead of, you know, me worrying about everything being perfect. I'm like, okay, let's just do it.
So weirdly relieving, but also sad, because I had something like that where I posted a video on Instagram that like went viral or did super well, like, and that was like the least effort I put into a video. It was like I sat at my dining table and like I used like I kept the camera audio in too with and I'm glad that it was like a guitar riff that like I'm working on, and I've had that riff forever, and I've posted it multiple times on Instagram. I've posted that riff like a million different times, and it's never, you know, done anything. And then that time it like somehow blew up, and it did really well. And all my thoughts of like, just like, okay, I need to work on my lighting. I need to work on this. I need to work. All of that was just thrown out the window. I didn't even like, the caption was like 4 words or something. I didn't even do any, I put no effort into it. That was literally my like, I just need to post something on the internet. It's been like 3 weeks. I should probably post something. And then I saw that. I was like, what the hell? Yeah. Like, maybe I don't need to focus as hard on some of these things. Maybe I just need to keep doing it. It's a weird, like,
at the same time, if you want to put something out with effort, like you shouldn't like, well, I need to not put it. Like, you know, you can't really like think the opposite way too. That's the same thing. Like I've been putting out stuff, and like I've been getting a lot of people like, oh, like this is like really high quality. It's like, I don't do much to this. Like, you know, I don't, I do enough to where like, I like the way this looks. Cool. Like I'm not gonna try to over like think it. Cause I'm very much a like chronic learn as you go type person. Like I'll learn enough to get stuff done. And then like if I run out of knowledge and now like, okay, cool, this knowledge I have now ran out, I need more, then I'll get more. But I don't try to learn all of it, because that to me is always overwhelming. Then I feel like I'm thinking too much about everything, and again get stuck in where like I'm not making anything because I'm worried too much about analyzing like every single thing that I could be doing different.
Do you think it works better because you have the company too? Like you have like deadlines, expectations?
We have like the team, like before when we weren't like having meetings, it was a lot harder. And then like when we just started meeting up, and again, it was just, again, a little bit of an accountability of like, okay, I'm doing this today. So to those people, like to my team, when I have those conversations, I'm like, I have this idea. It's like, if I tell them, then I feel it's not the gratification of like, that's a good idea. It's more like, oh, I told them this is our business. I need to get it done. Like, so it's more of a bigger push to like get stuff done. So it does help because all of us kind of keep each other motivated and keep going. And we're all like handle separate parts of what we do. So everybody's doing like their own thing at all times, and then we can get together and create stuff. But I know that they're doing their part, so I need to make sure that I'm doing mine. So yeah, it does kind of help that. Yeah. Keep motivated and keep pushing stuff out.
You need the guardrails sometimes. I like, at least for me, that's what I'm thinking. I think about is like with being a solo artist, it's like I'm my boss, so I'm and I suck at that. Yeah. And it's like I have to be the disciplined one. I have to, and when I'm writing the thing, sometimes it's like my brain's all over the place. I'm just super, like it's hard for me to focus sometimes. But when I have like a clear, sometimes when I have like a prompt or a thing, it's like a game to me in a way. And it's like, I'm pretty competitive. So it's like when it taps into that brain, I feel like I naturally put away the like, I don't know, overthinking, and I'm just like, I need to get to this thing as fast as possible. Yeah. And like, that's something I want to get into with like sync licensing and stuff like that, just because I found that like working, not necessarily, is a band, but also just from a like, I'm going to make you a thing from this prompt. There's some fun element to that of like problem solving and like that kind of thing where I have to put aside the like, I have to realize there's like a goal or end as opposed to when I'm working on an album or something. It's like the goal or end is like the ether, as opposed to like this other thing where it's like by April 15th, this is the thing that needs to be done. Then I'm not like, oh well, I don't screw the guitar tones. I'll figure that out. I just like, I'm not gonna sit there for 30, I'm not gonna sit there for like 3 hours just tweaking the treble knob on this amp to see like, well, it could sound better. It's like, dude, I just need to finish this song, get it out and pump it out, and like
it's a balance, especially when it comes to like, and you want to like actually do something with it. You do have to have those talks with yourself and be like, okay, these are, even if it's like a broad goal, like some sort of thing to work towards. Otherwise, again, you can spend unlimited hours just like tweaking it and tweaking it over.
Creative,
but because it's fun. Because like all that stuff is fun. Like you playing there for hours, you messing with MIDI, you messing with tones and stuff like that. That is interesting. So yes, you could do that.
I spent so much time just perfecting knowing everything in my DAW, and then I'm like, when am I ever gonna use this macro? It's like, oh cool, I've like created the like ultra god macro in Reaper or whatever, and it's like, but I didn't finish this song. It's like the riff is, it's like I wrote my name. It's like in my homework assignment where it's like you write your name super pretty, and you wrote the date and you wrote the thing, and it's like, now I need to start the essay, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to.
No, I had, my friend Nick who was here was talking to me. He's like, like I'll spend like a really long time like creating like tones and stuff like that, but then I make sure that I write a song, whether like, I don't care how long it is, like, but I'll write something with it. So there's a point like to me tweaking. I'm like, okay, that's a kind of like an interesting strategy. To make sure, like, if you're working on something, what can you put it into like practice with, even if it's like whatever.
Instagram videos are a good thing for that. Like, I found my tone when I'm in that rabbit hole of just like tone building and stuff, and I'm trying to record something. I'm trying to repurpose like that time for like, okay, I'll write a riff that I was just like showcasing this thing, and like I'll just use it for like posting up a video on Instagram. So that way it's not like I'm thinking about like, how does this fit into the product that I'm trying to build or whatever. I'm just like, hey, this sounds cool. Let me post it to Instagram, and like, but at least there's something productive with
that's
it.
That's the content. As far as like when I can tell people like about content and stuff, again, no, I do not proclaim to be like an expert or anything, because I don't know shit. The only thing I know that I enjoy, and that's the only thing I can go off of, is stuff that just seems genuine. Like, do you like, again, if you like creating tones and writing something with it, cool, use that, because it'll be way easier to create that content because you actually enjoy it, rather than figuring out what does the algorithm want, what is like right now, this and that. You know what I mean? It's just very difficult. Like that's why I was intimidated by TikTok forever, because I used it, but I'm like, if I put Noise Ride on TikTok, like I'm gonna have to post every day and do all this stuff. And I did for like the first month. I posted every day, like at least one video. But
Five artists,
multiple,
you should like.
And it was, and then it was also like, I go, what do I actually want to do? And so I do like, I think I was like, what happens a lot to me on TikTok? I was like, oh, I'll scroll and I'll find like an artist. I'm like, this is cool. I'm like, cool. Like that's a series there, like artists that I found here. And it's just natural. That's organic. Like, oh, that's something that I'll find an artist, become obsessed with them. I'm like, cool. Like, let me share that. That's easy. Every Friday, I'm always excited to see what new stuff comes out. Like, and so I would overanalyze it. I'd be like, okay, but who am I going to pick here? And I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just, the video is going to be made about the first new song that I listened to today, whether I liked it or not. You know what I mean? Like,
you have like a series almost.
Yeah.
It's
so, and that was the easiest way for me to, I was like, these series like I know that format. And so there's some stuff to keep me structured, but there's other stuff where
that's cool.
I can do whatever. So series kind of help me. I don't have to reinvent a wheel every time I make a video.
Do you do different videos for TikTok than Instagram then? Or like is your TikTok?
Sometimes they cross over. I do have, I think, just the bands I found on TikTok series is just a TikTok one. So, because I do, there's got to be, I was also thinking, there's got to be something, why are you coming to TikTok if you can see all this stuff on Instagram?
That's what I'm trying to.
So, but it was just one. So, like, there's just a little bit extra content. And in TikTok, I found with TikTok is that it's more people are inclined to interact on TikTok than they are on Instagram.
Really?
In my experience.
I need your help, man. I'm gonna hire you as like a TikTok helper, because like I feel like with TikTok, that's where the way I approach it is pretty bad, in the sense of like I feel like right now it's like I approach Instagram first, and then it's like, oh, I should probably put this thing on this, and I should probably put this, versus like, let me start with TikTok and make the thing that for TikTok. But like, even TikTok though, I feel like some of the stuff like with the app, it's like, you know, like that video I told you that did really well on Instagram didn't do shit on TikTok, which is fine. Yeah. But maybe that's just a different platform. Maybe I should, maybe I could like use it as a way to showcase a different element of my, existence on like not like a different aspect of music. Maybe it's like talking.
I think the only thing is because TikTok is just, I mean, I know they're trying to branch out to like, I think they do photos now, like stories and that, but people go on there to doom scroll, to like scroll. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's more a video platform. So that's what they're expecting to see. Instagram is still like, it's got a lot to it now.
Yeah, it's like a TV. Instagram's like
exactly. So there's a lot that you can pick to interact with on that. And I think it's still, and because like Noise Right doesn't just do content. We do like shows. Yeah, I was going to ask like what that. Is like. So Noise Right, we started to be a booking company, and then to do shows. So like DJ used to book with this other company, and he's like, I kind of like doing it, but I kind of got my own ideas about it. And he did 2 festivals called the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns Fest, and it was just like a mixed genre fest that we did once, and then the second time he asked us to help because it was bigger. And I'm like, cool. And then like at the end of that year, we're like, why don't we just like keep working on stuff together? Cool. We made Noise Rock. But I joined because I'm like, I like creating content and doing stuff like that. I would like to do something because we played music, and that's how we kind of all linked up. But I also like the entertainment aspect of stuff. So I'm like, what if we just do that with music? Like I get to combine kind of 2 of my like loves. And for that second fest, I told him that I would make, the third one, I was like, what if I make a podcast? Like, and we just like promote artists playing the fest. Like I'll do like 6 episodes, like just to promote it. It's like, cool. I procrastinated. I was supposed to do like 1 episode a week leading up to the fest. I waited till the last 2 weeks, and I'm like, I promised him 6. So I did like 6 episodes in 2 weeks. And it was fun. And I'm like, you know what if I just do the rest of the artists that played, and then we'll call it quits or whatever. And then I just realized that I like love doing it. Yeah. And then just realized like there's so many people around here. I go that I know and that I don't know. And I'm never going to run out of people to talk to, like ever. And it's cool. Like it lets people show off like their personalities that they don't like at a show. You can talk to a band, but you get, a few minutes, and it's just like a short, but this is kind of a way for you to really talk about whatever. And then we have other stuff. So DJ now has something called the Rotted Root Sessions, which is kind of like an audio tree. So we have like a live, you play your songs live, and then you'll have like a little bit of an
studio
interview
session. Yeah, that's cool.
So we have that. We are breaking into social media actually. So we've like done social media for like other bands, and gone out to like events to do like their content for the day, and like worked with a few like smaller festivals to do again like content building stuff that like I realized like, well, we're kind of like good at it. I go, we can go out and like do it for other people who are running a fest, don't have time to go out and do it. So we'll do like crowd interaction and stuff like that. Again, I think it's fun.
The thing I like, so when I reached out to you, just like, oh, dude, your show's awesome, is I liked how it's like multiple niches. It's a DFW podcast, but also DFW and like heavy music. Yeah. And like, I was like, but it's still, there's so much content on, like there's so many episodes, like I was like looking at it, I was like, you got like 200 episodes, you have so many bands, and it's really promising of just like how big the scene is and how big this area, or like how big actually metal music or heavy music is, you know, gotten. I think that's part of the reason why I'm kind of back into heavy music too, is like it's kind of back, you know. I feel like there was a period where it wasn't that big and stuff too, and I feel like everyone's kind of getting back into it. But you've got that niche of like heavy music and here, but it doesn't feel like, I was just like, oh, this like, I didn't know at first if it's just DFW based. I was like, this just looks like all the podcasts I watch on the internet. So, yeah, and I was like, that's sick.
I wanted to make sure when we were moving up with it and we moved here, I'm like, I want the artists coming in here to not feel like, oh, well, they're like a local band or whatever. It's like I was like, you're an artist. Like, I don't want to be even though I'm a local band. Like, I don't want to be a local band.
Give
me like, I want you to feel like, your shit. Like again, like it's good. It's this and that. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause like, and I tell everybody like, everyone's like, I think at first like, oh, like who does the booking for the podcast? It's like me. Like, so if you're on here, it's because like I want you on here. Like that's what I want you to feel like. Yeah, someone's paying attention, and then make it look the best that I can. Because again, I know how bands have a hard time like balancing the creating content and stuff like that. I'm like, cool. You come here, you get a whole podcast, you get a bunch of like different clips and stuff like that. And then now again, we're branching out into like trying to help with more stuff. So like again, which we can talk like after this, but like to promote the album and stuff like that, we're offering people like a few more like things like, oh, if you want us to do some other type of like promo for you, like I want that more, because again, like I know how much talent is around here, and it just needs to be like shown off, and not in a like, oh, this is just whatever this area. Because I started branching out to a little bit outside of Texas. I've had some like bands from out of Houston and Oklahoma and stuff like that. Oh, okay. Because I realized like how many like interactions I'm just making, so I would like to just expand it. But yeah, it's just like a limitless like stuff, and just heavy. So I do try to make an effort sometimes when I remember to like try to go outside comfort zone, because heavy music I've been around for a little bit, but yeah, we'll try to have like any type of like artist on. Like I don't limit myself to it. It's just cool. Like that is definitely where like I am definitely like more comfortable with.
Yeah, that's like where you come from.
But yeah, I definitely like to show like what all the aspects is. But yeah, it's not one that gets. I've seen like other podcasts around here, and they all focus on like other types of music. But yeah, this is the one that I have the most access to. So yeah, we'll use it. Like, you know, but yeah. Oh shit. Okay, I think these are about to die. So it's all right. No, I want to thank you for stopping by again. Man, I appreciate you making the drive. Yeah, let us know whenever the album gets ready to release, and help promote as much as I can. You know? Man. And yeah, if you need help with anything, definitely feel free to reach out. But yeah, thank you for stopping by again.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. This has been episode. I have to look back every time. 124 with Bhloom. Thank you for coming. Thank you for what? I forgot my outro. What is it? It's thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you next time.
Sounds and breakdowns.